Welcome back. I know all you get to see are my arms and the rug hooking thing, and I'm a headless artist in here. But I went ahead and finished my circle. This is the toughest part, going from outside in, because things get a little snug. What I try to tell people is this: take a deep breath, because you're only going to do one more ring, and you're probably going to be 1 to 2 columns inside from this column here, or this column, but you know what I mean. So you have this outside line here, you're going to come in maybe 2 dots worth, and so that it gives you enough gap, because this is going to pack itself down. So I've hooked this. This is what it looks like from the underside, and this is what it looks like from the outside, and I haven't trimmed anything. Trimming is minutia at this point. You can, if you feel better and you want to see more of your work, you can go back and trim your tops, but I need my better scissors for that. These are not acceptable. The best ones are going to be your bent tip embroidery scissors, or go ahead and get hooking scissors that are designed, they're duck billed is what they're called. What we're going to tackle next is the flower. Okay, now I realize that I'm giving away a lot of knowledge. This is a lot of knowledge. We're going to tackle the flower differently. Now, I chose to use this really wild, bodacious hand dyed that I had, just because I've already done the more antique version. I'm actually going to find the center of my flower, as weird as this sounds, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create, and this is a little bit trickier because you're trying to get your column, and you don't want to have, see that gap right there? You don't want to have a gap like that. Let me show you close up. This is a big gap. You don't want that. So initially, when you're trying to find your column, you may find that your line is not going to be a straight line, but I don't really understand how art can be so straightforward anyways. You want to be a little bit of an artist here, because I have never seen a perfect flower in my life, unless if, I guess you're talking about a lily, you know, or maybe an iris, but even then, you know, nature's imperfect, so your line should be imperfect. But with that said, I also know that when I'm making that claim, I noticed that that one is a little off, so I'm gonna pull it back out and I'm gonna put it through again. But notice these guys here are getting a little, I'm getting a little rambunctious. I can go back with my hook and start finagling with it, but again, I can't repeat this enough. You know, for what you're using it for, you know, if you're really trying to be a perfectionist, then this is not going to work. So I am really struggling here to get a straight line. I'm going to just say that maybe that's the whole idea, is not to have a straight line. Okay, now this is the part that's going to throw you off. I'm actually going to turn my work. So I'm going to go ahead, and since I'm right-handed, I find, oh, come on, hook, stop jumping around. See, I wanted you to know that I'm human. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one more. I'm going to pull it through like this. And if anyone tells you I'm doing this the wrong way, disregard that, because again, this is all subjective. I've created a curve here, and now I'm going to go ahead in, and I'm about 1 column of these little dots over, and I'm going to turn it one more time, and we're going to fight with the fabric today. This seems to be the theme. And we're going to come back down again. I don't like to waste and cut a lot. That is just my personal style. There will be times when you are going to just do line, cut, line, cut. And what that means is that you're just gonna, wherever your last tab is, you're gonna put the next one in the same hole, pull it up, and then continue on. And you know where that comes in handy sometimes is gonna be on pieces like this, where you have a lot of just boring back and forth. Because when you turn like this, you can see what's gonna happen. You don't want that on the edge. It's okay here, but you don't want it here, because at the end of the day, then you're gonna have what's called a holiday, and you don't want those little open holes there. It means you're gonna have to go back in and do patchwork, and it's not gonna make any sense. Now, here's the trick to turning. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn this back. I'm gonna turn it towards me this way, and I'm going to pick up my stitch. It's gonna feel a little bit awkward first. Don't fight it. If it fights you too much, then back off and go one more hole over. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take my hook, and I'm gonna twist it. And it will correct itself as I go along. And now I'm back up here. Okay, so that's all I did was I popped it through, and then I'm gonna go along, and I skipped one, you can see that gap, so I'm gonna go back a little bit. And that's what I love this process, is that it's kind of like crochet where you make a mistake, okay, you just pop it back a couple of rows or a couple of stitches, and then you're good to go. This actually, I feel it has a little too much gap, so I'm going to go back in and correct it. And you'll get a sense of it. I'm a little tired right now. Seems to be my MO these days with all the work that I've been doing. Okay, so I've hit a point where I have just enough, like at the end of my fingertips. I'm going to go ahead and pop that loop through. Doesn't look like it's that little amount that I said it was, but it really is. And then because I'm going for randomness, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab another strip, and you can see it's gonna have these weird colorations in. But now, where it ends, you can see is right there, okay? I don't know if I'm blocking it. I'm gonna put my hook through, pop this up, and pull that out a little bit, but you can see where that stitch ends. Sorry. And I'm a farm girl, so forgive my dirty fingernails. I'm going to now add, using my hook, again, and look, notice the green. Have you noticed how very little transition, pardon me, I've had to do? So I picked up where I left off, and I'm gonna continue in the round. I'm gonna continue going around, sorry. This is in the round, this is just going around. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do my flowers. But you get the idea, you understand now the concept of picking up your line and then turning it. So when it gets a little cattywampus, it's okay if there's some splitting of the fabric. Again, you can see those little bits and pieces splitting off. That can get trimmed off, or it's actually going to get tucked in at some point, because when you're done, you'll have that. The other thing I don't worry so much about, as I said, is these uneven spaces, or loops, I mean. And the reason being that when I go back to press my piece, a lot of times some of that will fix itself. And if I sit here all day long, I'm gonna end up pulling all my loops out. But you can work a little bit with it. If you know anything about knitting, get yourself a double point. Hold on. Okay, here we are. This is too big, but it's a double point. And with a double point, I can go in, and look, I can even pick up all three. But because it's so thick, it's actually gonna end up making uneven loops. So if you did that, you'd have to be consistent throughout. But if you find that you're struggling and you just need a point of reference, you can go back in with that double point, and it's gonna kinda help a little bit. But again, I don't worry about that because flowers are textural. It lends to, when you're looking at it from a distance, it lends to the lights and darks and the way the light hits it from a distance. When you're up close, you might see the flaws or what you consider to be flaws, but I see them as beautiful things. So that's how I'm gonna do my petal, and I'm gonna come out here and come back around here, and when I get to the point where this is filled in, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna turn and I'm gonna come back this way. So that's how you're gonna make your petal. And since you already know how to follow an outline, when you're done making each individual petal, so you start from the center and come back around, you're gonna go back in and choose your lighter yellow. In my case, I chose a green this time. Do your lighter green, and then you're gonna do your darker green, okay? Now, here's one other point. You're gonna wonder why the heck I started in the middle of my project. I started in the middle of my project because that's the correct thing to do. I could have started over here, but because this is probably going to be the most important detail, it sets the tension, it's going to set the distances, it's going to set everything. I started here, even though I'm not perfectly in my middle, because from here, I'm going to build outward. And as I push with my fabric and this all changes in tension, it's going to help me get to my edges, because you'll see what looks all straightforward, by the time you get to here with your fabric, you're going to have less and less and less space, because again, remember, if this is a 732 inch thingamabob, which has a fraction that's annoying, 0.2125 or 165, you will see it really does start to push it over. So you always start from your center and you build outward. It's okay to tackle little things here and there, but at the end of the day, make sure that you try to stay in this zone first and build it out this way. It's going to be the same for punch needle. I would imagine that you would want to start in wherever the biggest work is, which this is your body of the piece, and then go back in and do this. So that's another, 11 minutes of conversation on this subject. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for the rest of the piece, but this is what's going to get you going, because once you know how to do this and how to do this, then you're going to understand the rest. And again, don't forget, get comfortable with holding your fabric. You're working from underneath and your hook is on top and you're going to be pulling through, and give yourself enough space. So if this is this big of a cut, you're going to be skipping one. So you in one, skip one, in one, skip one. There will be times where you have to skip two, and there will be times where you may have to go one to one to one, but each instance is based on the tension that is building outward or inward, depending on where you are on the project. Okay, so that's enough for right now.